A black man steps out of his car, hands raised, calm, polite, but the cope already has his gun drawn. Don't move. I said, don't move. The man doesn't flinch. Then one shot right in the chest. He hits the ground, gasps, people nearby scream, phones. Go up, and Theophyser, he walks up, still aiming. With doesn't realize as he just shot a high-ranking U.S. Army lieutenant on medical leave from an overseas combat deployment. And what happens next? The Pentagon steps in. And this officer's life is over. Lieutenant Marcus Dean, age 34, dark brown skin, muscular build, dressed in casual jeans and a black hoodie, is driving his black SUV with Army base sticker on the windshield. He's calm, humming, coming back from visiting his mother. He signals and pulls. Over, rear view mirror, flashing lights. A white cop, early 30s, buzz cut, visible aggression. Marcus, calm. Afternoon, officer. Cop barking. License, step out. Hands where I can see them. Marcus steps out slowly, hands raised. Military ID falls out with listens. The cop doesn't even look. Cop, you one of those street boys, huh? Yo fit the description. Marcus, I'm a soldier, sir. Cop smirking. Yeah, then you should be used to being shot at. Anthem, he pulls the trigger. Once on American soil, on an American hero. The video hits the internet within minutes. 20 million views in 24 hours. Outrage, protest, veterans speaking out. TV audio breaking. Officer involved in shooting Gunnar victim was a decorated Army lieutenant. Marcus in full Army fatigue saluting. Medal ceremony. Bronze Star combat footage from Afghanistan. News clippings. Local hero saves fellow soldiers under fire. Marcus had served 3 tours. Saved over 12 lives in active combat and came home to this Pentagon spokesperson. Female 40s firm voice spokesperson. The Department of Defense does not take this lightly. Lieutenant Marcus Dean is one of our best. We will not allow his service to be insulted or ignored. The cop sits at a desk, silent, pale. He's handed a discharge. Letter. Internal Affairs Officer cold. You're done. Badge, gun, and get out. He thought he was above consequences. He forgot this country still has warriors. Marcus arrives in uniform, American flag patch, bronze star on his chest. Crowd stands. Eventhy judge pauses softly. Lieutenant Dean, thank you for your service. Theckup, now in civilian clothes, sits red-faced, sweating. Testimonies begin. Army generals vouching for Marcus. Veterans group standing in solidarity. Medical. Doctors detailing his PTSD. Service injuries. The jury takes less than 2 hours. Verdict. Guilty. Abuse of power. Discharge of weapon with intent. They tried to bury his truth, but has stood taller than ever. Because heroes don't always die in battle. Sometimes they survive injustice. Comment justicey if you believe our soldiers deserve a protection at home. Share this story if you're tired of the silence around racial profiling. Subscribe for more stories of hidden strength, karma, and real justice. Because power doesn't come from a badge. It comes from sacrifice. There was something dangerous in that smile. Because people like Officer Mitchell are only brave against those they think can't fight back. They've never faced anyone with my resources. Grace approached, listening to the conversation. Mr. David, we don't want you getting into trouble because of us. Grace. I have $200 million in lawyers who make Mitchell look like a playground amateur. The problem isn't me taking Hyman. It's him picking the wrong family to bully. That night, David was in his office. When Victoria called, David, we found something big. Mitchell isn't just evicting families. He's using false records to justify confiscating children and selling them to private adoption agencies. How many children? 12 in fellas 2 years, all from vulnerable Black or Latino families. David clenched his fists. This wasn't just about illegal evictions. It was about deliberate Telezeppin families to profit from human suffering. Victoria, how long do we need to build a federal case with your sources? 2 weeks. And to secure immediate protection for Grace and the children. I can arrange that tomorrow. David looked out the window toward Theoverpus, where his new family slept on wet cardboard. In 2 weeks, Mitchell and his superiors would discover they had messed with the wrong family. What they didn't know was that David Thornton had spent 20 years building an empire through ruthless strategy and unlimited resource. And now, for the first time in his life, he had a motivation that went far beyond profit. As Destiny fell asleep in Grace's arms that night, haunted by Mitchell's screams, David prepared for a war that would prove that sometimes the oppressors choose the wrong victims. And when that happens, revenge comes with surgical precision and infinite resources. Sometimes people like Mitchell forget that in a world where money is power, there are people with enough power to rewrite all ferrules of the game. What he would soon discover was that he had poked not just a vulnerable family, but a sleeping lion with 200 million reasons to wake up. The next morning, David woke up with a calmness he hadn't felt in years. As he drank his coffee in his penthouse, hadn't think about financial reports or the day's meetings. His mind was focused on something much more important, completely destroying the lives of people who profited from the suffering of children. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Victoria Chun arrived at David's office carrying 3 thick folders. "We got much more than we expected," she said, spreading documents across the table. "Mitchell isn't just corrupt, he's stupid. He left digital footprints of her." Marcus Rodriguez entered shortly after, carrying professional court equipment. The camera's wine still captured Mitchell making explicit threats against at least 8 different families. But the best is yet to come. David leaned back in his chair. "Go on." "Mitchell has a WhatsApp group with other officers where they literally limit on how many families they can clean up each week. We have screenshots of everything." Victoria laughed coldly. "They call the children premium. Products best wealthy families pay more for small babies. Destiny and Malik were next on the list." David felt something cold run up his spine. This wasn't just about illegal evictions. It was about institutional kidnapping. "How much evidence do we have?" "Enough to take down the entire department," Marcus replied. "But you said you wanted something more personal." "Exactly. Mitchell is going to learn that there are consequences for threatening my family." While David planned Mitchell's downfall, the officer continued his routine of terror. That afternoon, he showed up at the overpass accompanied by a corrupt social worker David didn't even know existed, Mrs. Grace. The woman said with a fake smile, "I'm Sarah Williams from Child Protective Services. We've received reports of parental neglect." Grace hugged Malik tighter, terror evident in her eyes. "My children are well cared for." "Sleeping in the open isn't caring," Mitchell interrupted sadistically. "Children need stable homes, not mothers who can't even pay rent." Destiny, who had been playing nearby, ran to her mother. "Mommy, are they going to take use away?" Sarah Williams crouched down with a rehearsed smile. "Honey, we only want what's best for you and your little brother. There are wonderful families waiting to give you the love and stability you deserve. I have love and stability." Destiny replied with courage that broke Grace's heart. "I have Mommy and Malik and Mr. David." Mitchell laughed cry. "That rich man who shows up here, he'll get tired of you soon. Just like he always does. Men like him don't really care about people like you." What Mitchell didn't know was that every word was being recorded in high definition by the cameras David had installed. More importantly, he had just made the fatal mistake of completely underestimating his true opponent. That night, David received the day's recordings. He watched Mitchell mock Destiny, threaten Grace, talk about premium products as if they were merchandise. For the first time in years, David felt something his business competitors knew well: cold, calculated rage. Victoria, he called at 11 o'clock that night. I want you to file a federal complaint first thing in the morning. Human trafficking, corruption, civil rights violations, everything. What about the family? Mitchell might try something. Desperate when he realized he's under investigation. David smiled, but there was something dangerous about that smile. The family will be safe because tomorrow they're moving into my house. David, are you sure? This could complicate the case. I'm not asking for permission, Victoria. I'm informing you of my decision. The next morning, David arrived at Thea Verpus with 2 lawyers, a moving truck, and temporary guardianship papers already prepared. Grace looked at him in confusion when he explained the situation. Mr. David, we can't accept this. It's too much. Grace, David interrupted gently. In 48 hours, Mitchell will find out that he messed with the wrong family. When that happens, you need to be somewhere safe. Destiny tugged at his sleeve. Mr. David, will you really protect us from the bad man? David crouched down to her height. Destiny, do you trust me? Yes. Then believe me when I say that the bad man will never bother you again or any other family. Grace saw something in David's eyes that reassured her and worried her at the same time. There was determination there, but also something darker, something people like Mitchell would never expect to find in a sentimental entrepreneur. As the family gathered their few belongings, David received a message from Marcus. Mitchell just posted in the group that he got 2 more products marked for collection. He really thinks he's won. David typed a quick reply. Let him think that tomorrow learn the difference between being defenseless families and taking gone someone with unlimited resources and federal lawyers. For a moment, as Hekrid Malik to the car, David thought about how strange it was that his life had changed so completely because of a little girl asking for milk in the middle of the night. But looking at Destiny holding Grace's hand, he knew he will do it all over again. What Mitchell didn't understand was that had just turned a successful businessman into something much more dangerous. A protective father with $200 million and absolutely no limits when it came to defending his family. 48 hours later, Officer Mitchell woke up believing it would be just another routine day off cleaning up the streets. He had no idea he was about to experience the last day off his career and possibly his freedom. At 8 o'clock in the morning, he received an urgent call from Captain Morrison. Mitchell, I need you to come to the station immediately. We have a delicate situation. When he arrived, he found Morrison looking grim. 3 internal affairs officers, 2 federal agents, and to his utter bewilderment, Victoria Chun, the most feared civil rights lawyer in the city. Officer Mitchell, said the captain, do you know Dr. Chinby's reputation? Mitchell replied, trying to keep his voice steady, but already feeling cold sweat on his back. Victoria activated a tablet and turned the screen toward him. Do you recognize these images? Mitchell's blood ran cold. It was him in high definition pouring ice water on Grace's belongings, threatening to separate the children, using intimidating language against a defenseless family. The recordings had crystal clear audio of every cruel word had uttered. Where did you get this? His voice came out louder than I intended. Security cameras legal installed in a public area. Victoria smiled coldly. But that's just the appetizer. She slid to the next video. Mitchell watched in horror as his own voice confessed to other officers that he received extra bonuses for relocating gun-to-soul elements. Conversations he thought were private recorded with professional quality. 52 families. Officer Mitchell 52 families uterized and illegally evicted over the last 18 months. One of the federal agents leaned forward. Agent Thompson, FBI. We're investigating. ALLEGATION, so human trafficking, extortion, and systematic civil rights violations. Your name comes up on all of them. Mitchell felt his legs go weak. Human trafficking? I never, Victoria interrupted, playing audio from a phone conversation. Mitchell's unmistakabilities echoed through the room. I managed to get 2 more premium products for pickup. The girl is 6 years old, perfect for those rich families who want little babies. The boy is also usable. Premium products. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Is that what you call children, officer? Captain Morrison shook his head in disgust. 23 years of service, Mitchell. How did you get to this point? But Mitchell was barely listening. His mind was racing, trying to understand how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Then Victoria showed him the next piece of evidence. Screenshots from the WhatsApp group where he and other officers bet on how many families they could expel each week. But you can't clear 5 bums by Friday, Victoria read aloud. I won. I separated 2 kids yesterday. Double commission this month. A heavy silence filled the room. Mitchell saw his career, his retirement, his entire life evaporating before his eyes. Who's behind this? Agent Thompson asked. Because we know you didn't organize this operation alone. Mitchell hesitated, but Victoria played Anatha recording, him talking about orders from above and the Greenfield project. Greenfield Development Corporation, Victoria said. $16 million in fraudulent municipal contracts. You used psychological terror to drive families out. Then the company bought their land for next to nothing. Agent Thompson placed a tape recorder on the table. Officer Mitchell, you have the right tone. Attorney, but if you cooperate now, we may be able to work something out. That's when the door opened and David Thornton entered the room carrying a briefcase. Mitchell recognized him immediately, the sentimental businessman who visited the family under Theoverpus. Sorry I'm late, David said calmly. I was finishing up the last details of the investigation. Mitchell felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. You were documenting every crime you've committed, David confirmed. Opening theft folder, including these recorded conversions with your superiors at Greenfield, he played audio. From a meeting where company executives openly discussed how to use Mitchell and Aetherpolis officers to clean up problem areas before land acquisitions. The important thing is that it looks legal. Greenfield CEO's voice echoed through the room. Mitchell knows how to pressure at these families without leaving an official trail. Mitchell sank into his care. This wasn't just police abuse. It was criminal conspiracy involving millions of dollars. Mr. Thornton, Agent Thompson said, What exact role did you play in this investigation? David smiled. But there was something dangerous about that smile. When I saw Officer Mitchell threaten a family I consider my own, I decided to use my resources to find out exactly who I was dealing with. Victoria added, Mr. Thornton funded a 6-month investigation that exposed a corruption ring worth $50 million in misappropriated public funds. Mitchell finally understood the magnitude of what had happened. He hadn't just intimidated a vulnerable family. He had picked the wrong family, one protected by someone with unlimited resources and absolute determination. Officer Mitchell, David said, approaching the table. Do you remember what you said to Destiny on her list day? That men like me get tired of people like her. Mitchell nodded weakly. You were right about one thing. I did get tired. Tired of seeing innocent children terrorized by people who were supposed to protect them. David placed more documents on the table. Offshore bank accounts, suspicious transfers, fraudulent contracts, 3 years of evidence proving that you and your superiors turned child protection into a human trafficking pipeline. Captain Morrison stood up. Officer Mitchell, you're suspended immediately. You will be charged with extortion, human trafficking, corruption, and systematic violation of civil rights. Mitchell tried to speak, but could only whisper, "How did you get all this?" David leaned forward. "You completely underestimate who you were fighting. You thought you were dealing with a defenseless familiar and a naive businessman," Victoria added. "Mr. Thornton has $200 million, a team of 15 specialized lawyers, and private investigators in 3 states. You picked the wrong opponent." As Mitchell was led out of the room in handcuffs, he heard David say to Agent Thompson, "Agent, I have more evidence than the other officers involved in how Greenfield used social housing funds to finance private projects." That afternoon, as news of the largest anti-corruption operation in city history dominated every channel, David was at home watching Destiny teach Malik to draw flowers in the garden. "Mr. David," Destiny asked, "will the bad man ever bother anyone again?" "Never again, sweetheart. Neither him nor the people who made him do bad things." Grace approached, holding a cup of coffee. "David, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me for protecting my family," he interrupted gently. Destiny looked up from her drawing. "Are we really his family?" David crouched down beside her. "You're the only real family I've ever had." As the sun set over the city, David reflected on how a simple question, "Sir, I need milk for my little brother," had completely changed his life. Destiny had taught him that family isn't something you buy, it's something you choose. And when someone threatens that family, you discover that protection is priceless. Sometimes powerful people forget that there are even more powerful people watching. And when those people decide to act, justice doesn't just come as punishment. It comes as a complete transformation of reality. Mitchell thought he was going after a vulnerable Millie, but he was actually waking up a sleeping giant who would rewrite the rules of the game forever. 6 months later, David woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the garden. Through his window, he saw Destiny teaching Malik to walk on the lawn while Grace planted flowers she had chosen specially to match her daughter's drawings. "Daddy David," Destiny shouted, running toward him when he appeared at the door. The word daddy still made his heart race every time he heard it. Grace smiled, wiping the dirt from her hands. "She's insisted on calling you that since I signed the adoption papers." David crouched down to hug Destiny. "And insists that it's the most beautiful word I've ever heard." Officer Mitchell, meanwhile, had discovered that justice has a long memory and surgical prescience. Sentenced to 15 years in prison for human trafficking and corruption, he spent his first month trying to understand how a sentimental businessman had completely destroyed his life in a matter of weeks. In the same prison where many of the families he had separated visited their children in foster homes, Mitchell learned that reputation is like crystal. Once broken, it can never be put back together. The same way, Greenfield Development Corporation had all its contracts canceled, lost $120 million in federal fines, and its executives discovered that trying to profit from human suffering can cost much more than money. It can cost freedom. Mr. David, Destiny said that afternoon as she helped prepare dinner, "My teacher asked me what I want to be when I grow up. And what did you say?" "I said, I want to help other families like ours, families that people pretend don't exist." David stopped cutting vegetables and looked at a 6-year-old girl who had turned his life upside down. "You know you can be anything you want, right?" "Yes, but I want to be just like you. Someone who uses his power to protect those who need it." Grace, who was listening from the table where she was feeding Malik, smiled. "She's right, David. You taught us that family isn't about blood. It's about choosing to care for one another." That night, as he tucked Destiny and Tobed in her room filled with books and colorful drawings, David reflected on the irony of life. He had spent 45 years accumulating wealth, thinking it would make him happy, only to discover that true wealth came when a little girl asked him for milk for her little brother. "Daddy David," Destiny whispered sleepily. "Thank you for choosing us as your family. Thank you for teaching me what family realignment's, my princess." "6 months after the trial, David received a call that surprised him. It was from Mayor inviting him to create a municipal family protection program that would prevent other children from going through what Destiny had faced. "I accept," he replied without hesitation, "but I have one condition." "What is it?" He want Destiny to cut the ribbon at the opening. "She taught me that protecting families isn't charity, it's responsibility." On the day of the Destiny Family Protection C-Centers grand opening, hundreds of people gathered to watch a 6-year-old girl cut the ribbon on a project that would change thousands of lives. David watched from the back, holding Malik on his lap while Grace held Destiny's free hand. "Mommy," Destiny whispered to Grace before cutting the ribbon, "are we helping other families not go through what went through? We are, my princess, and it's all because you had the courage to ask for help from someone who could make a difference." When the cameras caught David wiping tears from his eyes at that moment, everyone understood that this story wasn't about a millionaire saving a family. It was about a family saving a man who had everything except what really mattered. Mitchell, watching the news from prison, finally understood the lesson that cost him his freedom. When you choose to terrorize the defenseless, you sometimes find that they aren't as defenseless as they seem. David learned that true wealth isn't measured in millions of dollars, but in laughter in the backyard, heartfelt hugs, and the certainty that someone is running to you shouting, "Daddy," when you come home, and Destiny. She learned that sometimes when you have the courage to ask for help, you find not only what you needed, but much more than you ever dreamed of. The little girl who promised to pay for milk when she grew up ended up paying with something much more valuable. She taught a lost man that family is the only wealth that truly multiplies ventured. If this story of a child who transformed the life of a millionaire touched your heart, subscribe to the channel because sometimes the greatest victories begin with the smallest gestures of courage, and the best families are the ones we choose to love.